My god. Finally, guys. Finally. Upon hours of trying live on stream and trying and trying and trying. Now I had a session off stream and it took me, I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is properly hard. The requirement that you need is tough. I finally beat 24-3, quote unquote free to play. And why quote unquote, I will get to that in a moment. Now, the fight in itself, I cannot go back to this. I should have maybe prepared this. But the fight in itself is quite tricky, right? And it's hard to do a guide about Ulquiorra because he has different patterns and different attacks once he goes into the second phase. The first phase is fairly easy, and the general structure is that if you reach the second phase by the 2-minute mark, you want to get to 8, 9, 7 bars, run about that part, with 1 minute left. Depending on how he transitions into phase 2, he will do attacks that are not parryable, right? That you cannot counter, so it will take quite a lot of time. If you are still not dissipating him by the 1 minute 30 mark, you can restart the fight. Just straight up. The reason why I say quote unquote free to play is because the requirements that you need to have on your Kenpachi are really, really high. In fact, I was so unlucky with his own set stamps and everything else that I had to bring Kisuke to level 100, at least to get a little bit more damage. And you will see it was so close that he may have saved me the run, by the way. Now let's go into the builds, because I was so excited that I stopped recording just to make sure that the recordings are not going to be broken by any kind of things. I don't know, I'm not a technician, I'm not an expert when it comes to these things. So just clicked stop recording and I forgot to do the breakdown here. I didn't change anything, I'm just fresh out of the fight, I'm mentally drained. So if I am stumbling up on my words, once again, I'm sorry about that. Also, if you have any question about Kenpachi, I would highly recommend you watch my guide. And one of the main reasons is because he is really technical. There is a lot of in his kit that is not explained in the tooltips, and you can add a lot more damage once you do the animation canceling proper, once you can do the hot swaps proper, and so forth and so on, right? So I would highly recommend to watch that one if you are struggling with Kenpachi and his damage. Now, let me take a breather. Alright. Let's do this. As you can see, by the way, I have a B1. Now, when it comes to the B1, I wouldn't say that it's mandatory, by the way, but it's really nice to have. It just alleviates a little bit the problem of needing more and more damage, okay? It also helps because in the special attack you can dodge out of it without interrupting it. And the super armor that you gain is quite clutch, because the fewest basic attacks that you need to do with him, the better it is. I'm not saying that it's mandatory, but it's really nice to have for this specific fight, especially if you're trying to just do it by stats alone, because for the B1, not having the B1 means that you need even better stats than already are required, right? So let's talk about the stats. By the way, as you can see, I haven't applied anything here. The weapon is A1, the boundary is B1, and the core stamp is highly advised to have it at A5 for this fight here. If you're not having it at A5, I mean, just a real quick disclaimer, if you're going to use Neliel, of course, you don't need that much of an investment, possibly, right? Because she's really strong. But in the case of Kisuke, Kenpachi, and Yachiru, this is what you're going to need. This is the baseline, I think, right? And then you can add from there. Now let's go over the stats. Stats are 5.2k, depending on my own setup. I had two different setups that I was trying. I was trying crit rate and I was trying crit damage. And the thing is, personally, I liked crit rate better, but I did it with crit damage in here, because sometimes, depending on the fight, like I mentioned already, it's quite random, and you cannot really time it right. So you want to get the most possible. If you're just adding randomness to it, you might as well, right? That was my thinking about this, because I tried with this and you were lacking, or well, I was lacking damage at the tail end of the fight, because when you cannot dissipate him when you want him to be dissipated, then you're going to lose a lot of damage, right? So this is why I used my crit damage here, and I was just hoping and praying that I would crit. And in fact, you will see in the footage, it was close. And also I didn't play it perfectly either, so there is a lot of air. I could maybe shave off another 10 to 15 seconds if you had played it perfectly. When it comes to the stats, this is what I had. I will scroll through this, but I'm going to tell you guys what I think should be tried to achieve here. Now, when you do this with Neliel, the requirements will be lower because she adds a lot more to the damage part, right? Yachiru doesn't do any damage. You have just Kenpachi in itself who deals damage. And a little bit of Kisuke here and there too, right? But the thing is, if you try to do this in a double support setup, try to aim for as much crit rate as possible. I would say 60%, mainly for the bond, and then as much crit damage as possible too. The ailment, take the 80% ailment from the third stamp, and that should be fine. You don't need ultimate charge rate, by the way. Again, why not? It's discussed in the Kenpachi guide video. I would refer to that one. It's also in the link down below. So if you in the description down below, the link for the Kenpachi video. So just go to the video and watch that one, and you will understand why I did what I did here, right? But generally speaking, you want to crit rate 60% and crit damage above 130. If you can both get it done like that, that would be ideal. If you get 60 to 120, is absolutely fine too, right? But personally, I think that if you go above 60% crit, here you might as well go to 70, or as close as possibly to 70, because Yachiru, which I will go to, has a 30% crit rate here. Now, why am I mentioning quote-unquote free-to-play? As you can see, the requirements are fairly high, because you need a lot of memories in here, right? To get the A5 in here, then you need Kisuke up in levels 2. This part here is okay, this doesn't matter too much. It's always nice to have a little bit more in here, because like I said, he really helps out. For him, it's just pure damage, crit damage here, crit damage and crit damage here. The more crit damage you can give him, the better it is. I didn't even have a hit here, for example, and you can add ultimate charge rate. You really want to have ultimate charge rate in here, at least to get 2 Behinimi. I cannot speak anymore. I'm so drained. I'm not even joking here. But 2 special attacks, there you go, and then you want to have the ultimate ready. The ultimate for Kisuke, you will see in the fight that I'm going to use it not only to reapply the buffs, but also to stagger Ulquiorra. Quite important. When it comes to bonds, crit damage on him, and Yachiru has the attack increase here. Also, another important part when it comes to the quote-unquote free-to-play part is that you want A5 weapon on Yach and A5 on the core stamp. The difference in stats is quite noticeable, and you really want to have as much of those free stats that you can get from the double buffs, right? It's quite crucial, to be honest. I don't know how much more you need to invest into Kenpachi. I would say if you don't have Yachiru that build and you can afford B2, but then it's not free to play in that sense anymore, because going for a B2 as a free to play is a really high ask, right? So anyways, this is basically the setup. For Kenpachi, I would have had ideally slash damage here, but I had attack, so I'm just dealing with this. Also, instead of attack here, crit damage would have been really good to alleviate a little bit more of the problems that I had. Same here, I had to use what I had, right? These are not perfect setup stamps, which is also important, by the way, because you're not going to have every single slot perfected, because sometimes you have to focus on somebody else. So whatever you can get, try to achieve the stats that you can with the set stamps that you have or that you can farm cheaply, right? And this is my best piece actually, also because it has ultimate damage. This ultimate damage comes really, really clutch, by the way. Special attack is great too, especially if you have the B1, because you're going to do a lot more special attacks, and this is just added on top of it, right? Basic attacks, if you are a B0, that's a viable option too, but it's not that strong. You would rather have 9% damage increase and maybe 3% for full assault or something like that on top of it, right? And yeah. That was tough. That was tough. As you can see, 46-8 here for Kisuke. He is at B3, by the way. So, for Kisuke itself, before I forget to mention this part here adds a lot of damage. Because the way that you fight Ulquiorra, he will be able to be hit by the Giga anyways. So you will add this 15% quite a bit. And this helps me get a little bit more out of the skill in here, right? I took that from the selector because I was really lacking damage. I just didn't have any luck with the set stamps. But yeah, this is basically the setup. So that's why I put it in quotation free-to-play, because yes, it is possible with free-to-play, but you have to invest so much stuff into one singular team, and that's for one ticket, 100 Koban and 20 Jade. It's mostly for, like, you know, I did it for my own stubbornness, because I wanted to beat it, and I wanted to show that it's possible. With that said, I will show the gameplay right now. I hope you enjoyed, and if you like... No, you should hit the like button anyways. For all the suffering that I had to go through to beat Ulquiorra, you should hit the like button anyways. Not if you like the video, I don't care. You don't even have to like the video, just like the video anyways, because it was such a big fight. It was... Please, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for watching, and everybody who was suffering with me through the live streams. Thank you so much. And we have done it. We have finally done it. See you in the next one. Peace and bye.
91戦時後天逮捕。怪我してるやつは突っ込んでろ。